The story opens with a man in a hoodie, walking down a filthy, poverty-stricken street. Studio apartments line the area, cramped and noisy, the kind of place where arguments are background noise. Two men bicker openly, one of them even spitting on the other's shoe as they argue about getting a job, calling each other random and useless. Above all of it, the protagonist calmly narrates that this neighborhood of tiny studio apartments is always loud and disgusting. This miserable place is his home, a 180-square-foot rooftop apartment that barely qualifies as living space. He pulls down his hood, sighs deeply, and resigns himself to ramen for dinner again. Bro is broke just like me. In his hand is a cheap packet of instant ramen, because he is in survival Minecraft mode. This is where we're formally introduced to our boy Bong Joo-hyuk. He's 25 years old, officially unemployed, yet ironically juggling 3 part-time jobs, working as a convenience store cashier, a waiter at a barbecue restaurant, and a day laborer. Despite all that grinding, he explains there's a simple reason he can't save any money, because he is in debt. No matter how miserable he lives his life, paying the debt off comes first. As he prepares his ramen, his narration continues. He admits he has no special skills, nothing remarkable about him except a healthy body. There's no bright future waiting ahead. This, he says bluntly, is the life of a pathetic loser, just another loser barely scraping by. But then, he notes, this ordinary miserable day is exactly when everything changes. Out of thin air, a blue system panel suddenly appears in front of his eyes, displaying his name, Bong Joo-hyuk, and announcing that he has awakened. The glowing notification shocks him completely. Still distracted, he takes a bite of the steaming ramen, instantly burning his tongue. He curses out loud, muttering what the hell just happened, while staring at the system window in disbelief. Awakening? He questions it. He explains that awakening is something people call a blessing, a jackpot that can flip your life upside down overnight, a stroke of luck rarer than winning the lottery. But there's a catch, you have to stay alive to enjoy it. Entering the tower is deadly. You can be torn apart by monsters, frozen or burned by extreme environments, poisoned, crushed by traps, or killed in countless other ways. Those are just some of the ways people die inside the tower. Because of that, Bong admits he's avoided confrontation his entire life. He does everything he can to stay away from danger. He is a loser and a coward, someone who's lived cautiously just to survive. And now, suddenly, he's awakened. Doubt creeps in immediately. He wonders if this awakening is even real, or if he's just so exhausted that he's hallucinating. Desperate for confirmation, he shouts for his status window. Another system panel appears instantly, listing his profile. His affiliation is Black Tower Korea. He's level 1. His trait is listed as Summon, Concurrent Summon, with an empty catalog. Skills include Designated Summon, Random Summon, and Unsummon. Seeing all this makes it impossible to deny, it's real. He reaches out to touch the screen, but his hand passes straight through it. His heart races as he realizes this isn't a dream. Still, confusion remains. His trait is Summoning. He explains that all awakened individuals are granted a trait, abilities that come in many forms: swordsmanship, spearmanship, shield arts, archery, martial arts, gigantification, slashing, summoning, healing, and more. Advanced summoning can involve spirits, familiars, golems, or demonic beasts. Summoning allows a summoner to utilize specific categories of summoned beings. Bong questions himself about what kind of summoner he is. Deciding to test it out, he extends his hand forward like a hero in a movie and activates his skill, calling out for a summon. Nothing happens. He tries again with random summon, but still nothing. Then it hits him. Skills don't work outside the tower. He explains that a player's abilities can only be used inside the tower. Outside of it, aside from checking their status window, awakened players are no different from ordinary people. It's common knowledge. Feeling stupid, he mutters that there's no way a skill would activate outside the tower. Right then, a system panel appears, stating that random summon has been activated. Shock ripples through Bong as purple light begins to gather in front of him. The energy condenses, shaping itself into a human form. In the next second, a man materializes from the light. Bong stands there, drenched in sweat, completely stunned. He can't understand why it worked. He's not inside the tower. He stares at the summoned being and questions internally, is he actually a person? Bong's mind spirals. He didn't summon a spirit or a golem, he summoned a human. Then something even stranger happens. The summoned man smells the ramen. The scent drifts into his nose and his attention locks onto the bowl. He points it out immediately and asks if he can have just one bite. Bong, still overwhelmed, agrees. The summon digs in, gulping down the noodles in one go. Slurp after slurp, he demolishes the ramen, commenting that it's spicy and hot but continuing anyway. He says the company must have release a new spice flavor. Bro is just like me, I am also a ramen lover, comment down if you also love ramen. Meanwhile, Bong internally judges him as a one-bite moocher who can't even handle spice, noting that the ramen is mild. Despite the absurdity, Bong's confusion deepens. How did his skill activate outside the tower? And why has he never heard of a human summon before? He immediately calls up his status window again. The panel explains his summoning ability in detail. He can summon humans and demi-humans. Summons are divided into tiers: R rank, rare SR rank, super rare SS rank, Special Super Rare and LSSR. Legendary Special Super Rare. The summoner and the summon can communicate freely under all circumstances. Bong compares it to pulling characters from a gacha game. Another system message appears, explaining the 3 rules governing summons. First, the summon must protect the summoner's life above all else. Second, the summon must absolutely obey the summoner's orders. Third, if the first and second rules ever conflict, the first rule takes priority. Bong pauses on that, absolute obedience. He admits it actually sounds pretty nice. Naturally, his next question is obvious. Who exactly did he summon? The system panel answers by opening the summon catalog. The summoned man's name, John Kosak, the mad assassin of the Cruel Assassin Guild. His rarity is SR rank, super rare. His type is assassin. Human manifestation duration is 6 hours. Satisfaction rating is listed as none. Resume cooldown is 3 hours. The narration reveals that John Kosak is both the greatest asset and the biggest headache of the Cruel Assassin Guild. Despite his madness, his mission success rate is an insane 99%. He even managed to assassinate a 5th Circle Warlock, and that is where his legend and his end begins. Our protagonist suddenly clutches his head as a violent rush of information floods his mind. Before he can even process what's happening, his eyes widen, his consciousness slipping into a trance, and in the next instant, his body, or maybe his soul, teleports elsewhere. He finds himself in another place entirely, watching John Kosak, the assassin, pass right by him. The protagonist feels nothing, like he's just a ghost watching history replay itself, as if he's witnessing John Kosak's past through a VR device. John Kosak charges straight into battle, rushing his enemies and cutting them down in an instant. The protagonist can't help but wonder if this is Kosak's past, but then another thought slams into him. Is this guy insane? Because after killing them, John doesn't stop. After beheading his enemies, one after another, and then calmly ties ribbons around their severed heads like a gift wrap. At that moment, the realization lands. So this is why he's called the Mad Assassin. Then we get to know John Kosak's end. His downfall comes from a single fatal failure. His final target was someone absurdly powerful. John enters a room to carry out an assassination, dagger in hand, confident as ever. But the target turns out to be the Empire's strongest swordmaster. In one brutal instant, John Kosak is cleaved clean in half, his upper and lower body flying in opposite directions. Bro got the Gojo treatment. Watching all this, Bong finally understands, this was Kosak's last memory. The vision ends, and suddenly John Kosak appears behind Bong, asking what Bong is thinking about. Startled out of his mind, Bong falls backward on his ass. John apologizes, saying he was just wondering if Bong had any orders for him. Bong is still shaken, having just witnessed the assassin's past and his psychopathic habits, but he remembers what the system said. A summon must absolutely obey the summoner's orders. Taking a deep breath, Bong steadies himself and starts issuing commands. He tells John Kosak to wash the ramen pot. John does it instantly. He tells him to wipe the table clean. Done instantly. Bong is stunned. The guy is insanely fast, doesn't complain, and carries out every order without hesitation. Testing the limits, Bong nervously asks if John would really follow any command, even something absurd. John replies that he will obey any order from his summoner. Then Bong issues the command to John, bark for him like a dog. John's face darkens and there is a moment of silence and the air heavy, like what will this madman do? For a moment Bong panics, thinking he went too far. This was a powerful man in his past life, surely he has pride. Did he just snap? But before Bong can spiral any further, John suddenly drops to all fours, walks around him like a dog and starts barking. Bong gives a thumbs up, internally thinking this guy is genuinely, absolutely obedient. That's when loud knocks slam against the door, snapping both of their attention away. Angry shouts echo from outside, calling Bong by name and demanding he open up. Bong curses internally, realizing he completely forgot today was the day the loan interest was due. The knocking gets louder and more aggressive. Bong quickly orders John Kosak to get up and stay alert. As Bong narrates internally, he recalls how everything went to hell. He had to borrow 10 million won but banks wouldn't lend him shit. The only option left was an illegal loan shark. The money was for his father's surgery after he slipped on ice and fractured his hip, and for his younger brother's college tuition. He had no choice. He thought he could pay it back quickly, but he hasn't even touched the principal. He's already paid over 5 million in interest alone. He knows it was stupid, but even if he could go back he'd make the same choice. But my question is, what was his father doing to slip on ice? The knocking turns into threats, the voice outside saying they just want to see his face. Bong turns to John Kosak, who's already holding his dagger, wearing that terrifying psychopath smile, saying all he needs is the order and he'll bring back the bastard's head. Bong shuts that down immediately, thinking this guy would cause an irreversible disaster. He orders John to hide in the bathroom, stay completely silent, don't move and don't make a sound. John calmly asks if he can still breathe. Bong says yes. John nods, satisfied. The door opens, and someone immediately grabs Bong by the neck, mocking him and saying he looks fine. It's a typical thug, his face covered in scars. He says the interest payment didn't come through, so he got worried. Bong apologizes and says he just sent it. The thug warns him not to push himself too hard and casually suggests selling an organ if things get rough. One kidney and all his problems disappear. One of the thug's lackeys jokes about Bong's younger brother. The scarred thug agrees, saying younger ones sell for more. Hearing this, Bong's expression hardens. The thug notices and asks if Bong is looking for a fight. Bong forces a fake smile, acting timid, saying of course not. The thug leaves, slamming the door and warning Bong to watch himself unless he wants to disappear without a trace. As Bong stands there in silence, John Kosak steps out of the bathroom. Bong praises him for hiding perfectly. John simply says he was ordered to. Bong is exhausted. He worked a double shift, accidentally summoned a human assassin, and got harassed by loan sharks in the same day. He wonders if he should really try climbing the tower, but immediately shuts the thought down. The money would be nice, but there's no way a loser like him could survive it. John then asks what he should do next. Bong says he doesn't know and offers to unsummon him if he wants to go back. Raising his hand like a kid in class, John asks if he can watch TV. It's been a while. Bong is confused about how John even knows what TV and ramen is, but shrugs and agrees. John thanks him and settles in to watch dramas. Later, Bong falls asleep while John watches TV. Bong thinks that even if John is a summon, it's not so bad having someone else around. For the first time in a long while, he feels a bit of comfort. He's been working himself to death, completely alone. This feels nice. The next morning, the alarm rings at 8 a.m. Bong wakes up and immediately assumes John has been unsummoned. The duration should have been 6 hours, right? He vaguely remembers a system panel appearing in his sleep. Brushing it off, Bong gets ready for work. Yawning, he notices the TV is still on. The news is playing, reporting breaking news from Jongno-gu district in Seoul. At an office of an illegal private lending company called Smile Cash, 3 victims were found brutally murdered. Bong freezes. Smile Cash? The report continues, saying all 3 victims were found decapitated. Bong drops his toothbrush as the final detail hits. The severed heads were decorated with red ribbons. A horrible realization crashes over him as images of the ribbon-wrapped heads line up perfectly with John Kosak's habits. Bong clutches his head in frustration and disbelief. He didn't summon a companion, he summoned a psychopathic murderer. The broadcast shows the brutal murder scene flashing across a TV screen. Loan sharks who had been tormenting Bong are now dead. The broadcast shows their boss, one finger grotesquely twisted and fractured, proof he was tortured before he was killed. Then it gets worse. The boss and his thug lackeys have all been beheaded, their severed heads neatly lined up, each one wrapped with ribbons like some sick display. It's horrifying, methodical, and way too personal. Cut to Bong, absolutely scared shitless, his mind looping the same thought over and over again. He's screwed. Trying to act normal, he works his shift at the convenience store, but his thoughts won't stop racing. Looking at the broadcast again in his head, he becomes convinced of one thing. This has to be John Kosak. Right at that moment, a voice snaps him out of it, politely asking if he could ring the item up. Bong looks up and in his imagination, he sees the loan shark boss standing there, his severed head talking to him. The head asks him, again, to ring it up, while the beheaded lackeys' heads loom silently in the background. Bong is completely shocked. Then he jolts awake from the daydream. In reality, there's just a woman customer standing in front of him, holding a neatly wrapped gift. She asks if he's okay. Bong hurriedly apologizes and says he'll rizz her up right away. Appalled after his shift ends, he steps outside as snow begins to fall. His thoughts spiral again. He can't keep working like this. Tomorrow, he decides, he's taking a day off from all his jobs. As he walks through the falling snowflakes, he can't stop wondering if the people who died were killed because of him. The scene transitions into the night. Alone, Bong opens his status window and carefully examines the catalog entry of his summon. It lists John Kosak as the mad assassin of the Cruel Assassin Guild. Grade SR, super rare. Type assassin human. Manifestation limit 6 hours. Satisfaction rating none. Resumen cooldown 3 hours. Reading it, Bong can only think that John really is a mad assassin. As his summoner, John won't harm him, but that doesn't stop him from being scary as hell. Bong attempts to summon John Kosak. Nothing happens. Instead, a system panel appears, instructing him to leave a satisfaction rating before the designated summon can proceed. A 5-star rating interface pops up. Bong immediately realizes that this is why the catalog had a satisfaction rating section. Annoyance boils up inside him. He thinks about how he was just watching TV, and John went off and murdered people without being told. For being such a pain in the ass, Bong feels like a 1-star rating would be perfectly justified. That's what he wants to give. But then he hesitates. He decides he can't be that heartless. In the end, Bong gives John Kosak a 3-star rating. The system panel confirms that John Kosak's satisfaction rating has been set to 3 stars. Bong reflects on his past, remembering how his mother used to be a coordinator for a water purifier rental company. He knows better than anyone how crushing a low satisfaction rating can be. Even if he's unhappy, he never gives 1 star. Immediately after, another system panel appears, announcing that John Kosak has been summoned via designated summon. In the next second, John materializes and salutes Bong, reporting for duty and saying it's a pleasure to meet him again. He even thanks Bong for the 3-star rating and promises to work even harder. Internally, Bong is disturbed. John looks innocent and cheerful, and yet this is the same man who killed 3 people. Bong hesitates, unsure how to even bring up the murders, but John invites him to speak freely. Bong finally asks about the men who came to his house the day before, directly questioning whether John killed them. John calmly confirms it, stating that he took care of them last night. The nonchalant way he says it only makes Bong feel worse. Bong realizes that John truly was the culprit, and the person standing in front of him is a murderer. Nausea hits him, his heart racing, and he forces himself to calm down, reminding himself that John won't hurt him, at least. Bong asks how John even knew where their office was. John explains that he planted a tracker mark on those bastards when they barged into Bong's home. Bong is stunned and asks what a tracker mark is, wondering if it's some kind of skill. Then he asks the bigger question, why go that far? John explains that they were a threat, and threats should be eliminated in advance. Bong protests, saying he never ordered John to do that. John reminds him that this falls under the 3rd clause of the 3 principles of the summoner. Seeing Bong's confusion, John explains it simply. Absolute obedience is required, unless the summoner is in danger. That clause allows disobedience for the summoner's protection. Bong tests this logic by asking if John would disobey an order to kill him. John gives a thumbs up and confirms that he would. Still uneasy, Bong argues that there wasn't an actual threat, and that it was John's own judgment call. John agrees, stating that the 3rd clause can be interpreted in many ways. From his perspective, those men would eventually have endangered Bong's life, making his decision perfectly reasonable. Bong panics and blurts out that this way of thinking is psychotic. Immediately he realizes he crossed a line and apologizes. John takes it calmly, saying it's quite all right and that he hears that a lot. Bong thinks to himself that it's not that he doesn't understand, it's that this power dynamic could be extremely dangerous. He imagines a scenario where he's walking down a crowded street with John. If he accidentally bumps into some punk who mouths off with a threat they don't really mean, John might interpret it as lethal danger. That guy would be dead in the next second. Bong bites his thumb, thinking deeply about the problem. Suddenly John kneels in front of him, taking responsibility. Bong is startled and tells him to get up. He speaks firmly, making it clear that murdering people doesn't help him and could land him in serious trouble. John fires back confidently, insisting that no one would ever know. Bong presses him, asking if he'll do it again. John admits he can't promise that. Determined, Bong lays down a rule. Unless there's literally a knife at his throat, John is not to kill people based on mere suspicion. John salutes and responds that he'll use his best judgment. Bong finally exhales in relief. Even so, he can't help thinking that John is being evasive. Still, he tells him it's fine and dismisses him. But John casually drops the question, by the way, has the summoner ever considered climbing the tower? The thought hits Bong hard. He freezes, visibly unsure, his mind spiraling. Yeah, climbing the tower is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the kind people dream about, but fear grips him by the throat. It's dangerous. People die in there. He could die in there. Bong looks at John and hesitantly asks if there were other summoners, people who summoned him before. John Kosak answers honestly. There were. They were strong, brave, the kind of people who charge forward without hesitation. Bong feels shame wash over him. He admits that some people use their awakened abilities to save the world, but he doesn't have that kind of courage. He can't risk his life like that. John starts to speak, calling him Summoner Bong, saying he truly is, only for Bong to cut him off first. He already knows what John is going to say. He calls himself a pathetic coward. And then, in the very next second, John beams at him with a cheerful smile and declares him the greatest summoner of all. Bong's brain short-circuits. What the fudge macaroni is wrong with this guy? John steps closer and asks a question. What is a summoner's greatest virtue? Safety first, always. Bravery is poison. A brave summoner is a dangerous summoner, because you never know when they might die. And if the summoner dies, summoned beings can't come out anymore. Bong finally gets it. John is saying all this because he wants to be summoned more often. John doesn't even deny it. He tells Bong not to worry. He'll handle all the dirty work. Bong just needs to lay low, stay safe, and live a long, long life. Hearing this, something warm passes through Bong, a strange nourishment, the comfort of relying on someone else, mixed with genuine encouragement. The next morning, Bong wakes up exhausted. He couldn't sleep. His head was too busy replaying the same question over and over. Should he climb the tower or not? Who is he to even think about climbing it? He should just be grateful his debt vanished, along with the debt collectors, and move on with life. Standing on his terrace, he decides he'll live safely. He'll work a normal job, or several normal jobs. If he just works hard, everything will get better. Everything. While stretching, his phone rings. It's his dad. Bong checks in, asking if he's keeping up with rehab. They mention transferring to a bigger hospital, but then the real shock hits. His mom got fired. His dad brushes it off, telling him not to worry too much. He only called because he hadn't heard from his son in a while. Bong promises to visit soon. They'll get a meal together. His dad tells him not to push himself too hard. They hang up. Bong lowers the phone, and the reality sinks in. Climbing the tower isn't optional anymore. It's inevitable. The next moment he's fully geared up like a paranoid disaster survivor, baseball bat in hand, safety helmet strapped on, stacked with every piece of protective equipment he could think of. He tells himself he'll just check the first floor. A quick peek. If it's dangerous, he'll leave immediately. It works out anyway. He took the day off from all 3 of his jobs. First comes the summon. Bong hesitates. Does he really have to stick with that psycho John? Can't he try summoning someone else? Who knows, maybe he'll pull a legendary special super rare summon. Bong activates his random summon with high expectations, but reality instantly slaps him in the face when the system panel pops up and declares that random summon is unavailable. The cooldown is brutal, 28 full days, with 11 hours, 8 minutes, and 37 seconds still remaining. In that moment it finally hits Bong that the cooldown isn't some short inconvenience but an entire damn month, and the realization leaves him with 0 options and 0 mercy from the system. Left with no other choice, he goes ahead and summons John Kosak, and just like that, the summon is complete. John Kosak appears and immediately salutes, confidently introducing himself as Summoner Bong's servant and thanking him for the 5-star rating while reporting for duty. Bong, meanwhile, is internally spiraling, thinking he doesn't know that I tried to summon someone else, right? Still, he awkwardly looks away, swallows his confusion and welcomes John Kosak anyway. With his decision made, Bong announces that they're entering the tower. At first, John reacts with excitement, impressed and calling Bong brave for going in already. But that enthusiasm crashes almost instantly, and John takes it back, warning him that bravery is probably a terrible idea right now. Bong reassures him, saying he's not planning anything crazy, just a quick taste of the tower before dipping out. John agrees that it's a wise decision and tells him to ditch all the crude, unnecessary equipment. Once they're inside, John promises to act as his guide and make sure Bong enters safely and stays comfortable the entire time, insisting that Bong won't even need to lift a single finger. Bong agrees without arguing. As Bong prepares to enter, another system panel appears, formally asking whether he wishes to enter Korea's Black Tower and stating that the currently accessible layer is floor 1. Before clicking yes, Bong turns to John, who eagerly asks if they're ready to go. John answers his own question with an enthusiastic yes, and in the very next moment, the 2 of them are pulled into a virtual otherworld dimension, full-on Matrix-style shit. The system panel announces that they are entering floor 1 of Korea's Black Tower. As they travel through the space between worlds, Bong completely loses it, panicking and crying his eyes out, overwhelmed by everything happening at once. In sharp contrast, John Kosak remains calm as hell, holding Bong steady as if this is just another routine trip. Bong and John continue traveling through the Matrix dimension. Their bodies drag through something that feels less like movement and more like being forcibly rewritten. Bong goes blank mid-process, his mind lagging behind as they're suddenly sucked into something else entirely. When Bong finally regains awareness, he finds himself inside a cave-like structure. The shock hits immediately. This place is inside the Black Tower. As he looks around, Bong realizes the first floor is nothing but a complete wasteland. The realization barely finishes forming before his face turns purple. The next second he pukes. Hard. The violent nausea hits him all at once from the insane transition from his room straight into the tower. John casually checks on him, telling him he'll get used to it soon, like this is normal. They exit the cave, which was a safe zone, and John confidently leads the way forward, telling Bong it's time to move beyond it. As Bong steps out, multiple system panels pop up in front of him. His physical abilities are automatically enhanced to match his level, and traits and combat skills become available. Bong immediately feels the difference surge through his body. Strength, clarity, awareness. It all clicks. He realizes this is what it feels like to be a player. Even at level 1, he already feels pretty damn strong. Another system panel appears, announcing the first floor mission: eliminate 5 tough-skinned fat maggots within a 2-hour time limit. The failure conditions are simple and brutal: death or mission abandonment. John spots the targets right away and casually points them out. Bong realizes that the first floor is designed to test a player's fundamentals. The tough-skinned fat maggots are basically living scarecrows. They deal almost 0 damage, but their skin is insanely tough, making them ridiculously hard to kill. Some players reportedly take 30 minutes just to kill a single maggot. Now a player himself, Bong decides to take initiative and moves ahead, declaring that he'll take one down first. With determination, he steps forward. Behind him, John panics, telling him there's no need to go through all that trouble, but Bong doesn't listen. He plants himself in front of a fat maggot, and then reality hits him like a brick. This dumb fuck suddenly realizes he doesn't even have a weapon. He turns around to get one from John. That's when the fat maggot rises. The massive, grotesque creature looms behind Bong, and he has absolutely no idea. Sweat breaks out as a sense of dread crawls up his spine. When he finally looks back, the situation is beyond fucked. Faced with the terrifying creature, Bong can only say one thing, asking John Kosak for help. John responds with a thumbs up, complimenting Bong on his wise decision. In the next instant, John vanishes and reappears in front of the maggot. With a single blow, he completely obliterates it, bursting the poor thing apart. John doesn't stop there. He charges forward, slaughtering the remaining fat maggots with overwhelming speed, telling Bong to stand back. He uses projectile attacks, unleashing a skill called Blade Burst. Just like the name suggests, the maggots explode one after another. When it's over, John turns back toward Bong. Bong is stunned, completely floored. He can only say that John wiped them all out in an instant. A system panel appears, announcing the completion of the first floor mission. Bong levels up and receives 100 grams of mana stone. Another announcement follows: He has achieved an S++ rank on the first floor of the Black Tower in Korea. As a clear reward, he's awarded a platinum badge. Bong is ecstatic, practically floating on air. This feels way too easy. If things keep going like this, he's going to be rich. But Bong doesn't realize what that rank actually means yet. As soon as the first floor is cleared, messages are sent out. A girl in an office receives one. A girl working out in a gym gets the same alert. A guy in a club sees it pop up too. At that exact moment, every player in Korea receives the same announcement. Bong is then teleported back to his apartment. A system panel informs him that he may now challenge the second floor, and that he has exited the Black Tower. Bong realizes that after clearing a floor, you're sent straight back home. He checks the time in disbelief. It only took 5 minutes. John congratulates him, calling him Summoner Bong, sir. Bong admits that he didn't even do anything. John tells him that's exactly what he was supposed to do. Bong is confused. He had always heard that players were supposed to fight monsters until they were completely exhausted, that clearing floors took forever. But this was stupidly easy. And honestly, it feels great. As part of the clear rewards, Bong receives a crystal and a badge. He picks up the crystal and realizes it's a mana stone, the first time he's ever seen one in person. Mana stones are an indispensable resource in modern industry. Their price has dropped significantly since the early days of the tower. Now 100 grams go for around 50,000 won, considering it's been 20 years since Black Towers appeared across the world. Most basic information about the tower is now common knowledge, even among ordinary people. Bong then examines the platinum badge. He's never even heard of something like it before. Still, the conclusion is simple. He just made 50,000 won in 3 minutes. In the background, John casually turns on the TV and starts watching a drama. Feeling good, Bong suggests they eat. He orders delicious food and the rich aroma fills the room, instantly invading John's nose. John asks if it's hot. Bong assures him it's not, explaining that he ordered regular jokbal because John can't handle spicy food. John insists he smells something spicy anyway, while Bong internally thinks about how disastrously bad John is with spice. John, clearly pleased by the food, says they should dig in and thanks Bong for his kindness in a strangely formal tone. Bong tells him there's no need to talk like that and asks if that's how he usually speaks. John responds in an old-fashioned way, confusing Bong even more. While eating, Bong points out that John keeps using words like a and thigh. John explains that it's because he spent so much time with his previous summoner. Bong realizes it's probably leftover influence. John asks if it bothers him and says he'll stop if it does, but Bong just laughs, saying it only gets funnier the more he hears it. John laughs along with him. Watching John stuff his face, Bong thinks to himself that he's sure of it. John isn't dangerous at all. No, it's more than that. This whole thing feels doable. The scene transitions into the next morning, where Bong is already in grind mode. He pins a rough timetable onto the wall, laying out his daily survival strategy. During the day, he plans to work at a convenience store, and at night, he'll clock in at a charcoal barbecue spot. In his head, the conclusion is simple and decisive. He's done being a day laborer. Instead of wasting himself on unstable work, he'll come home and climb the Black Tower with John. In short, Bong chooses to juggle 3 jobs, but quit the third one entirely, and redirect that time toward tower climbing. To him, it's a flawless plan. At that exact moment, Bong summons John once again. John materializes out of thin air, sharp and composed, immediately snapping into a salute. He casually announces another 5-star rating and thanks Bong for it. Bong, clearly over the moon, admits he's beside himself with joy and says he wishes he could give John a perfect 10 out of 10. John responds smoothly, saying he's glad Bong is that satisfied, which makes Bong pause and ask whether the satisfaction rating really matters that much. John explains that it absolutely does. The higher the rating, the more benefits the summon receives. That includes things like increased summon duration and even rank upgrades. Naturally, better ratings also mean more calls overall. Bong immediately gets it. After some time passes, a system message suddenly appears, announcing that Bong has entered the second floor of the Black Tower. In an instant, Bong and John are teleported there. A mission panel pops up stating the objective: clearly eliminate 10 nimble fat maggots within a 2-hour time limit. The failure conditions are brutal as always: death or mission abandonment. At first glance, Bong notes that these maggots don't look much different from the ones on the first floor. Bong blurts out that the second floor maggots are way trickier because they move constantly. They're much faster than he expected, and he realizes this speed is the true gap between the first and second floors. Bong turns to John and starts to warn him, saying that if John goes all out on the second floor, he might. Before John cuts him off and finishes the sentence himself. Die? Not happening. John grins confidently and declares they'll finish everything in 3 minutes. Pulling out his blade, John says he'll clear it quickly and escort Bong. As John charges into the swarm, Bong casually shouts after him, asking if they should get chicken tonight and maybe some beer too. John, already slicing through the maggots, answers back with a simple thanks. I am loving the bonding between them. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. John unleashes the same blade burst attack from before, completely overwhelming them. Watching this carnage unfold, Bong can only think that the whole thing is absolutely insane. Almost immediately, a system panel appears, announcing that the second floor mission has been completed. Bong levels up and receives a reward of 200 grams of mana stone. Another announcement follows. An S++ rank clear on the second floor of the Black Tower in Korea. A separate system panel adds that the S++ clear reward is a platinum badge. Bong stares at the notification, stunned. Another S++. He wonders if it's really okay for things to be this easy. Everything feels way too fast. With this pace, he realizes he can jump in and out of the tower before his morning shift even starts. Without wasting any time, Bong and John immediately proceed to the 3rd floor. The mission there is to eliminate 10 ice-bloated grubworms. John gives Bong a thumbs up, silently signaling that he'll handle this floor too. True to his word, another system panel appears only minutes later, announcing the 3rd floor mission's completion. Bong levels up again and receives 300 grams of mana stone. Once more, the system declares an S++ rank clear on the 3rd floor of the Black Tower in Korea, followed by yet another platinum badge as the reward. The momentum doesn't stop there. With the exact same pace and efficiency, Bong and John clear the 4th floor as well. Then, without slowing down, they complete the 5th floor mission too. As the 5th floor is cleared, a new system message appears. It announces that Bong has accumulated 5 S++ grade platinum badges. As a result, he has been awarded a perk for reaching that milestone. Bong is visibly confused. What exactly is a perk? The system immediately provides an explanation. A perk is classified as an awakening trait enhancement. Its effect is massive. It increases the number of simulation summons available to the player to 2. In simple terms, Bong can now summon another companion alongside John, officially leveling up his entire existence. The system profile flashes into existence in front of Bong. His name, his affiliation Black Tower Korea. His level has climbed to 6. His trait is still summoning, just like before, but now it's upgraded to concurrent summon. The number is 2, before it was only 1. His general skills include enter tower, once a day, and tower exclusive inventory. Bong just stares at the screen, stunned. 2 concurrent summons? That means he can bring another one with him. Sweet. Inside the tower, John Kosak can already solo every floor without breaking a sweat. And the S++ clear rewards? Absolute top tier. Since this is clearly turning into a long-term battle, climbing the tower like this will be way easier and way safer. Using random summon to summon his other summon isn't an option yet. The cooldown still has over 20 days left, so Bong decides to play it safe. Let's just survive carefully until then. The 3 of us? No, scratch that. While I slacks off, my 2 summons will keep clearing the tower and farming those juicy S++ rewards. We see tomorrow, Bong and John will climb the 6th floor. The scene cuts to Hanamdong, Seoul, South Korea, inside the Korean Awakening Management Department. In a quiet office, 3 people are present, 1 baldy, a man sitting on a sofa, and a woman standing nearby. The man on the sofa wonders when the announcement will arrive. Morning? Evening? Maybe even late at night? The woman steps closer and asks, thinking about the announcement. This man is Guang, a team leader in the Awakening Management Department. The woman is Lee Mina, the department's manager. Guang snaps at her, telling her to stop prying into people's minds. Mina shrugs it off, she just can't help being curious. Guang asks the real question. Has the new announcement arrived? Mina answers yes. It's an S++ rank clear on the 6th floor of the Black Tower Korea. Guang's expression darkens. Lately, Black Tower announcements have been popping up non-stop, and every single one is another unbelievable S++ clear. There's no doubt about it, this is the work of a single person. They're clearing every floor in order, from the 1st all the way to the 5th. If this person keeps going and clears the 7th, 8th, 9th, and even the 10th floor, and every clear is S++, then they're dealing with someone unprecedented. Someone terrifyingly talented. Suddenly, the baldy slams his hands on the table. He's Park Kyung-soo, the director of the Awakening Management Department. He reminds them that the highest rank ever recorded in Korea was only A rank. They only recently learned that ranks beyond A even existed. And now announcements appear whenever someone achieves S++ rank. Player migration has become common worldwide, and kidnappings have already been happening in secret. If they're not careful, Korea could lose this player to another country. They need to find this person immediately. Closely monitor every newly registered player. 2 days later, inside Bong's apartment, Bong asks John Kosak if today's target is the 8th floor. John answers casually while washing dishes. Yup. Bong thinks to himself that they're clearing 1 floor a day without any difficulty. Honestly, the 1st to 10th floors are basically the beginner zone, so this smooth run makes sense. The scene shifts back to the tower. Bong and John are on the 8th floor, where the mission is simple. Defeat 10 red thorn frog warriors. The frog warriors rush toward them, tongues snapping out in zigzag attacks. But before they can even register what's happening, John Kosak imbues his blade with energy and slices through the incoming frogs like butter. An announcement rings out. The 8th floor mission is complete. Bong levels up. The reward is 800 grams of mana stones, plus 5 tower exclusive healing potions. Then another announcement follows. S++ rank achieved on the 8th floor of the Black Tower Korea. The reward is the same as before, a platinum badge. Back at the apartment, John comments that it's another day, another floor cleared. Bong can only reply that he didn't even do anything. John laughs it off. Just entering the tower is already the hardest part. Bong admits that even so, they're able to climb so easily thanks to John. John quickly reminds him not to let their guard down. The floors after the 10th aren't something to take lightly. Bong thinks about it. They cleared the floor in 3 minutes again. Should he give Kosak a reward for all his hard work? There's still plenty of time left in the real world, so Bong pulls out his wallet and offers John some cash. Why not go out, eat something good, have fun, just don't cause trouble? John immediately refuses. Bong is confused. Why not? John explains calmly. Summoner Bong, I can't leave your side. I'll just watch TV at home. Bong realizes that the principle of absolute obedience doesn't apply here, so Bong makes another suggestion. How about ordering chicken? John instantly lights up. That sounds good. He turns away, fully committed to his imaginary chicken cosplay, and starts ordering on the phone, requesting very specific flavors. Not spicy, honey cheese butter, sweet something or other. Yeah, that one. While John handles dinner, Bong checks his rewards. A tower-exclusive healing potion. He figures he should probably give it to John. But then there are the mana stones. He already has 3.6 kilograms sitting in his inventory. That's about 1.8 million won if he sells them. Maybe it's time to start cashing in. Day 10 arrives. Bong prepares to climb the 10th floor and realizes he should probably quit his part-time jobs. He originally thought he'd just dip his toes into the tower, but they've been clearing one floor every single day. Yesterday, even the 9th floor boss, the jungle cannibal corpse flower, was a complete breeze. Clearing floors is basically guaranteed now, and the S++ rewards are just a bonus. Bong imagines himself in a suit, raising a glass of champagne and a toast to John Kosak. How sweet. No, wait. Is he seriously forgetting that John Kosak is a crazy assassin who's murdered 3 people? Bong activates his designated summon to call John Kosak, but a system panel appears instead. John Kosak's satisfaction evaluation has reached 5 due to continuous accumulation of maximum scores. His devotion time is increased by 1 hour. Bong blinks. Oh, it really was worth giving him the highest score. John Kosak is summoned again, instantly making a heart shape with his hands like a real-life Korean idol. He thanks Bong and says he can now serve him for another hour. Bong tells him he'll be counting on him in the future. John replies confidently, "You can trust me." Together, they step into the 10th floor of the Black Tower, Korea. A system panel flashes into existence announcing that Bong Joo-hyuk's physical abilities have been forcibly readjusted to match his current level. Traits unlocked, combat skills now available, and at the same time both John Kosak and Bong stand safely inside the 10th floor's safe zone, and Bong immediately feels it. Now that they're on the 10th floor, his body is different, stronger. The tower having completely recalibrated him as raw physical power surges through his veins alongside a mysterious magic pooling low in his abdomen, sending his thoughts spiraling as he wonders, so, have I, Bong Joo-hyuk, become an untamable wild horse? And in his imagination, he literally sees himself as a feral, majestic wild horse galloping across open plains, unrestrained and unstoppable. And fueled by this delusion, he boldly turns to John Kosak, and declares that from now on he's going to help in battle, only for John to shut that down instantly, basically saying, "Hell no, your ass is way too weak," and that if by some freak accident Summoner Bong even gets scratched, he'd have to kill himself. Dead serious. But still trapped in wild horse mode, Bong confidently replies, there's nothing to worry about because he's already a wild horse, which John absolutely does not buy, as he insists Bong's cheers and praises are more than enough support. And that's all he needs, some urban legend level confidence right there. Yet Bong refuses to back down this time and starts to protest, saying he absolutely has to. When suddenly the ground shakes, Bong turns his head, and a massive eye is staring straight at him, belonging to a monster, not just any monster but a very monster that resembles a gigantic grasshopper radiating pure menace. And Bong instantly realizes this is the 10th floor monster as sweat pours down his face and a terrifying thought crosses his mind. How the hell did the other players even catch something like that? So knowing his place, he mutters that having both of them go after bugs like that feels a little demeaning to human pride. To which John calmly responds that he doesn't see why his pride should be hurt at all. Bong immediately disagreeing that no, it hurts his pride, a lot. So instead Bong switches tactics and suddenly transforms into a full-on cheerleader, hyping John up like a cheergirl and yelling encouragement like, "You got this, Kosak," causing the grasshopper monster to absolutely lose its shit as it launches a massive attack looming over John with overwhelming force. But in the blink of an eye, John dashes forward running straight along the monster's limb with eyes filled with pure murderous intent, and in the next second slashes the grasshopper apart, as zigzag cuts rip through its massive body, carving it into pieces, after which a system message appears announcing the 10th floor mission is complete. Bong has leveled up and receives a reward of 1 kilogram of mana stones, followed by another announcement that Bong has achieved an S++ rank on the 10th floor, and as a reward receives another platinum badge. John landing gracefully and declaring with confidence, "Mission complete, I say," as a new system panel appears informing them they may now challenge the 11th floor and the 2 exit the Black Tower. Bong doing mental math that an additional 1 kilogram of mana stones brings his total to 5.5 kilograms, and with 5 platinum badges obtained again, that means another perk is coming. Right on cue, a system panel appearing stating Bong has been awarded a perk for accumulating 10 platinum badges as excitement builds, while he anticipates what kind of broken ability he's about to receive, only for the next system panel to explain his new perk. He can copy one skill from his summon. As a list of John Kosak's skills appears, blade burst, shock break, despicable ambush, poison dagger, shadow step, confusion, stealth, invisibility, polymorph, and the system asks him to state the skill he desires, shocking Bong as he realizes he can really copy one of John's skills, while John doesn't hesitate and directly addresses him as Summoner Bong, saying without a doubt he must learn Shadow Step, leaving Bong confused with a huh? As John continues that the skill copy option popped up, right, so no questions and no arguments, he has to learn Shadow Step, period. And when Bong asks why, John instantly answers that it's convenient for running away, so even if something happens to John, Bong can escape secretly and quickly. Bro really just called him weak. Bong processing this in silence. Run away? Wondering what kind of person John thinks he is and whether he really looks like the type who'd abandon everything just to save his own skin, only for the very next second to contradict every heroic thought he just had by selecting Shadow Step, the system panel confirming it as Shadow Step learned and registered in his status window, John clapping for him while Bong immediately starts justifying himself internally that even in combat quick footwork is extremely, very truly important. Isn't footwork the key to a good fight? Maintaining a dead serious face while thinking this, later wondering if the skill will work in real life and trying to activate Shadow Step inside his apartment, where nothing happens and he just runs around like an idiot while John casually watches TV, Bong eventually collapsing onto the floor exhausted and crying out that if they're going to make summoning real they should at least make the skills real too because there's no consistency, and what a load of crap. John looking at him and replying that he's not sure what Bong is saying but he's right, bro's loyalty on Zoro level. As the scene shifts to day 11 of the tower climb with Bong visibly flustered on the phone with the Awakening Management Department as the call connects, and the representative introduces themselves as the call center. Bong nervously introducing himself as Bong Juhyuk and stumbling over his words as he explains he called because he had an awakening. The caller reacting with excitement and congratulating him while saying they understand he must be confused and asking if they may send government representatives to his house. Bong starting to share his address only for the caller to cut him off, thanking him for his cooperation and saying they'll arrive as soon as possible. And after the call ends, Bong sits alone completely drained as Bong Juhyuk, average citizen, has contacted the Awakening Management Department to sell his mana stones, the most courageous decision he's made in 25 years. As the scene transitions to Mina walking toward a black car with Gwang inside asking if she's here and questioning manager Mina about the awakened individual from Daegu who contacted them yesterday. Mina replying that it doesn't seem like that person is behind the S++ records, Gwang cursing under his breath and wondering if the real one will even show up. Mina informing him another awakening application came in today and asking if he'd like to come along. Team leader Gwang agreeing that they need to hit the pavement and if it's the right person they'll bring them into the elite team no matter what, and shower them with every benefit the Awakening Management Department can offer. Meanwhile, officers from the department arriving at Bong's house as Bong frantically cleans and prepares before hearing a knock and a voice announcing they're from the Awakening Management Department. Bong panicking internally because they're here, opening the door and greeting Gwang and Mina while apologizing for the cramped space and inviting them in. Gwang introducing himself as team leader Jian Gwang from the Awakening Management Department, and explaining that manager Mina is also a player and encouraging Bong to ask her anything. Bong noticing Mina and immediately getting more nervous because there's a woman here too. Mina politely greeting him as Bong introduces himself again as Bong Juhyuk, only for Mina to suddenly step very close to him, Bong freezing as she stares straight at him and asks a question that makes his heart stop. It's you, isn't it? The S++. Leaving Bong completely shocked. Bong was completely flustered because Mina had been way too close to him, like, dangerously close. His brain started short-circuiting as he wondered what the hell was going on. He questioned whether there was some awakened detection method he didn't know about, and his first instinct was to deny everything and just act normal. But being the dumbass he is, he started talking in a robotic voice and thought he might have heard about it somewhere. Still, he forced a laugh and insisted that it wasn't him. Meanwhile, Mina carefully observed his behavior and internally noted that his reactions were textbook signs of lying. Just then, Gwang suddenly stepped in, trying to pull an I like your cut G move, basically slapping Mina and telling her not to push people like that. Mina effortlessly dodged the strike and calmly said she would be more careful. Gwang then apologized to Bong for being rude to a player and Bong brushed it off saying it was fine. But internally Bong realized that they had just been probing him. The scene then shifted as they introduced Tavi, the mascot of Korea's Black Tower. With an energetic tone, Tavi asked if they wanted to learn about the tower and told them to just follow along 1, 2, 3 and suddenly everything went poof. Then it appeared. Jet black, ominous, and overwhelmingly massive, towering so high that it dwarfed even the tallest skyscrapers on Earth. This was the Black Tower. 20 years ago, these towers had appeared all over the world overnight. Countries mobilized their armies and scientists to uncover its secrets, but no one could get close. It was as if an invisible barrier blocked all physical access. So what exactly was the tower? That question was answered when players appeared. The tower was essentially a game-like structure where people advanced through floors. Outside, players were just regular people, but inside the tower they could wield powerful abilities. They upgraded equipment with rewards earned from climbing and contributed massively to the global economy. Then came the real question. What happens if you don't climb the tower? Multiple system notifications suddenly appeared, announcing that the climbing progress of Korea's Black Tower was sluggish. Another announcement followed. Tower collapse countdown initiated. The countdown would only stop if an uncleared upper floor was successfully conquered. The mascot continued explaining that if new upper floors were not cleared within 6 months, the countdown would begin, and eventually the tower would collapse. That was exactly how the city of Mumbai in India had disappeared 3 years ago. Now, it was time to look at South Korea's situation. Each country had between 1 to 3 black towers. Fortunately, South Korea only had one. There were an estimated 5,000 to 10,000 players, which was just 0.01% to 0.02% of the population. Not a large number at all. Still, Korea's black tower was making steady progress. They had currently reached the 65th floor, second only to the United States at the 66th, so people could rest assured. Players were the heroes of modern society. Just as humanity once explored the New World, humanity was now exploring the Black Tower. The awakened were told to pay attention. They were the hope of this era. The message encouraged them to register as official players and become heroes too. Then the laptop suddenly closed. Guang announced that this was all for the required viewing. Bong had watched the entire mascot presentation on Guang's laptop and internally complained about all these unwanted obligations. Guang then said he needed to ask a few questions as part of the verification process. He directly asked whether Bong Ju-hyuk was truly an awakened. Bong showed the mana stones he had collected and confirmed that he had entered the tower and even done some raiding. Guang thought this would be easy and asked which floor he had reached. Bong answered that he had reached the 10th floor. The moment he said that, Mina and Guang exchanged glances. The 10th floor was the same as the record held by the S++ ranked player. Mina immediately became suspicious and wondered if he could be that person. She then asked Bong if he had heard about the public announcement that had been trending lately. Bong internally panicked, telling himself to play it cool, but his response came out in a robotic tone. He mentioned the S++ rank clear, saying he had heard about it and that the person must be really amazing, even though he didn't know who it was. Guang reassured him that he didn't need to be so nervous, but Bong's panic was painfully obvious. Guang then began explaining the terms of the contract. The government divided players into two groups, the elite team and the general team. The general team consisted of individual players who planned and executed dungeon raids independently, basically freelancers. The elite team, on the other hand, maintained a much closer relationship with the government's Awakening Management Department. They were obligated to attempt higher-level clears but received extensive support and benefits. One major benefit was personal protection outside the tower, since players were just regular people there and had no skills in the real world. They also received a basic annual salary. While Guang kept talking, Bong's thoughts spiraled. If they discovered he was the S++ record holder, he would become the center of attention. He imagined himself surrounded by reporters asking weird, invasive questions. The idea alone made him cringe. He hated being the center of attention. Then Guang added that elite team members were required to film their dungeon raids using body cameras provided by the government. That was the final straw. Bong immediately declared that he would not be applying for the elite team. Guang was shocked. Bong insisted he was perfectly happy with the general team. Guang tried to persuade him, saying the conditions were much better, but Bong cut him off. He honestly claimed he had no talent and that everything was scary. He said he just wanted to stop at a reasonable floor and earn reasonable rewards. Guang asked him to think about it more, but Bong firmly refused, saying he had already made up his mind. Mina internally thought this was another dead end. Many players chose to stop climbing and farm safely, but this was the first time someone had been so blunt during evaluation. She concluded that someone so ungrateful didn't deserve to join the elite team anyway. The most important quality was the will to climb, and he clearly didn't have it. Guang then said he respected Bong's decision. Bong thanked him. Finally, Guang asked Bong to enter the tower on the spot as the last step to confirm his awakening. Bong agreed. Guang added that it would be a waste to use up his entry chance without clearing a floor, so he suggested Bong go in and complete one while he was at it. Bong hesitated, wondering if he should. Internally, he realized Guang was subtly testing him, trying to confirm whether he was truly the S++ player. In the end, Bong agreed. He said he would go in and clear a floor, but he usually took the full time limit, so it might take close to 2 hours. Mina reassures Bong, telling him that it is fine because this is their job. She tells him not to worry about it and to take his time, adding that they will be waiting for him. In the very next second, Bong is already fully prepared to enter the tower. He looks back at Guang and Mina and says it might take a while, so they should watch some television and help themselves to the drinks in the fridge. With that, he casually announces that he will be off, and in the next instant, Bong disappears. After he enters the tower, Guang remarks that Bong is definitely an awakened. He then questions Mina about what she thinks of him. Mina looks at Guang and admits that she does not know about his talent, but he seems way too timid. His speech and actions are all subdued, and she predicts that he will probably give up on the 11th floor this time. Guang asks why she is so sure. Mina explains that she has cleared the 11th floor before and that it tests the player's fear. Guang immediately asks if she is referring to the long-tailed giant centipede. Mina confirms it, explaining that although they are not particularly difficult monsters to defeat, the real issue is that someone would have to kill 100 of those hideous-looking things. She doubts that someone so timid could handle that. Guang agrees, saying that Bong will probably give up and return to the safe zone soon. He adds that Mina has been right about everything so far and that he should call the chief and inform him, assuming it will be another miss. Meanwhile, inside the tower, Bong summons John. A system panel appears, confirming that John Kosak has been designated as his summon. As always, John appears and immediately salutes Bong, thanking him for summoning him. Another system panel appears, stating that this is the 11th floor of the Black Tower, and the mission is to eliminate 100 long-tailed giant centipedes within a time limit of 3 hours. The failure conditions are death or mission abandonment. Bong gags at the mere mention of long-tailed centipedes, especially the fact that there are 100 of them. However, John flexes confidently, saying that he will take care of them quickly and that killing 100 of those giant centipedes is a 5-minute job. But Bong quickly stops him, telling John that this time he wants him to hunt as slowly as possible. John agrees but is clearly confused. Bong explains that he needs John to take over an hour so that it will not be recorded as an S++ rank clear. The reason is that there are eyes watching from outside. He also tells John that he will unsummon him inside the tower instead of in his apartment. John understands immediately and says he gets what Bong means. Bong then smiles creepily, thinking to himself that he only needs to show them that he entered the tower and cleared the floor in a sloppy way, taking as much time as he wants. After that, no one will suspect that he is the S++ record holder. He plans to completely escape the S++ clear network by maintaining terrible records. In the next second, John Kosak begins slashing long-tailed giant centipedes in half. However, Bong quickly complains that it is too fast and orders him to hunt slowly. John agrees and starts moving from one centipede to another at a reduced pace. Bong thinks that this is perfect, because the hunting speed has become much slower, and if things continue like this, it will be easy to keep his secret. But suddenly, a long-tailed centipede appears beneath Bong's feet. He gets scared shitless, panicking and shouting in fear. In the next moment, he slips on the centipede's body. He realizes that if he wants to escape, he needs to use his skill to run, but his body refuses to listen. Meanwhile, John notices this and is horrified to see his summoner in danger. Bong is surrounded by centipedes, and in the blink of an eye, John dashes forward, calling out that he is coming. Instantly, he destroys every long-tailed centipede surrounding Bong, moving so fast that he looks completely like he is the Flash of this universe. He tears through them at insane speed, destroying the heck out of the monsters. John becomes furious, declaring that these hideous centipede bastards dared to threaten his summoner. In his rage, he most likely kills every giant centipede in his path. Bong, sitting there in fear, watches the one-sided slaughter and desperately tells him to slow down, saying he is killing them too fast. He insists that it is an order and tells John to slow down as much as possible. However, John replies that he will obey, but Bong Joon-hyuk's safety is the top priority. Bong begins to panic, realizing that if John keeps going like this, his worst nightmare will come true. And then it happens. A system panel appears, announcing that he has achieved an S++ rank on the 11th floor of the Black Tower, Korea. As always, he receives a platinum badge. Another system panel appears, informing him that he may now challenge the 12th floor. Immediately afterward, Bong and John are transported back to the apartment. Another panel confirms that he has exited the Black Tower, Korea. Back inside Bong's apartment, Mina comments that it has only been 5 minutes and that he should be giving up and coming out soon. Suddenly, a system panel appears in front of her. Gwang asks what is going on as Mina stares at the announcement. It is another S++ rank clear notification. Almost at the exact same moment the announcement appears, Bong is teleported into the apartment. Gwang is completely confused and questions what is happening. Mina is shocked, saying that it is impossible. The S++ rank clear for the 11th floor has appeared, and at the same time, player Bong has returned. Bong stands there after being teleported from the tower to his apartment. Then he speaks in a chilling tone, saying that he did not want to have to do this. He slowly raises his hand and tells the two of them that they will have to be silenced. Behind him, John stands ready with his blades, radiating terrifying killing intent, fully prepared to kill both Gwang and Mina. In an instant, John is already in motion. He dashes forward with terrifying speed and, before anyone can react, he beheads Mina and Gwang. Their heads roll across the ground, the scene unfolding in brutal silence. But this is not what Bong wanted. His command had been to bind those two immediately, not kill them. Seeing that John has already beheaded both of them, Bong completely freaks out. He shouts at John Kosak, demanding to know who said anything about beheading them. As the severed heads of Gwang and Mina call out to him, the horror closes in and suddenly Bong wakes up. It was all a dream. He finds himself drenched in sweat, breathing heavily, while Gwang and Mina in front of him, perfectly fine. Gwang looks concerned and asks if he is all right, pointing out that he suddenly started sweating. Bong, still shaken, apologizes, while internally he thinks that without realizing it, he suddenly became paranoid. Trying to regain composure, he insists that he is fine. Gwang then reiterates that their elite team desperately needs a man of his talent. Bong immediately tries to slip out of the situation, awkwardly saying that it must be a misunderstanding. He claims that the 11th floor run overlapping with another player was just coincidence. He even forces an exaggerated reaction, acting amazed at the coincidence. But Gwang is not buying any of it. He says the timing is a little too perfect. Bong stubbornly insists it is just coincidence, and even jokes that his accent got infected, but assures them it definitely was not him. When Guang asks if he is sure, Bong doubles down and confirms it. Guang calmly accepts the answer and pulls out a contract. Now that they have confirmed Bong has awakened, he says it is time to prepare the contract. But the moment Bong opens it, he is visibly shocked. It is an elite contract, even though he specifically asked for a standard one. Guang interrupts and explains that this is on a completely different level. It is a contract unlike any other in the industry, the one and only ultra-elite contract. It includes an annual salary of 12 billion won, real estate, VVIP treatment, thorough security, and on top of all that, immunity. At this point, Bong internally thinks that this basically puts someone above the law. He wonders if something like that is even allowed. It feels like royalty. These benefits are currently only granted to the top-ranked player in Korea. Guang urges him to take a closer look, saying it includes every benefit the nation can offer. But Bong firmly refuses. He insists that he will not become a player unless it is a regular contract. Guang questions why he is so opposed. Bong explains that he simply does not like attention. For him, receiving attention is a burden. This becomes clear through his memories. When he once entered a clothing shop, the staff asked what style he was looking for, but he panicked and immediately apologized before leaving. Another time, a shop employee thanked him for being a regular customer, yet even that attention made his heart pound. It becomes obvious to Guang and Mina that Bong is extremely introverted. Bong continues explaining that climbing the tower is fun right now, but they are only at the 11th floor. The future is uncertain, and he is still unsure. Guang internally decides that it is best to back down for now. He agrees and says they will proceed with a standard contract. The two shake hands. While doing so, Bong thinks that anyone watching this would find it frustrating. They would say he should just sign the elite contract, enjoy the benefits, and climb the tower. But with an elite contract comes responsibility. Even if he wanted to quit climbing the upper floors later, he would not be able to. The team was made solely for conquering the unclimbed floors. He refuses that kind of pressure. He is happy just living a better life than before. Afterward, Guang and Mina leave Bong's apartment. The scene shifts to the Awakening Management Department. Inside, the bald director confronts them, saying their report is completely different from what they told him earlier. He reminds them that they described Bong as timid and lacking ambition. Guang confirms that is correct. The director then points out that this same person achieved an S++ rank. Guang again confirms. The director cannot understand. Guang explains that Bong's personality is unique. He is the type of ordinary citizen rarely seen. The director asks if they could have mistaken him for someone else. Mina bluntly shuts that down, saying the timing matches perfectly. The director explodes in frustration. He declares that it does not matter if Bong is timid. He has exceptional talent and must be recruited into the elite team no matter what. Guang responds with a resolute expression, promising they will absolutely bring Bong into the elite team. The scene transitions again. Bong is furious with John Kosak. He yells that he told him it was an absolute no, but John still killed all the centipedes quickly, exposing everything. John apologizes. Bong warns him that if he does that one more time, he will be unsummoned immediately. John obediently agrees. Soon after, Bong arrives at the 12th floor of the Black Tower in Korea. The mission is to eliminate 20 ice-icicle spear weasels within 3 hours. Failure, as always, means death or abandoning the mission. The environment is brutally cold, filled with ice, snow, and blizzards. Bong summons John again and carefully explains how they will hunt. He tells him to clear the floor gently and slowly. John salutes and moves out. Bong smiles, thinking that John is polite and quick to respond, and that he can trust him this time. If they clear the floor normally, the Awakening Management Department might lose interest. But the cold is worse than expected. Even though Bong prepared, the freezing terrain bites into him. He tells himself to endure it. John notices Bong's discomfort and becomes concerned, asking if he is all right. Bong insists he can manage. However, John decides to finish the mission quickly and escort him to a warm place. Despite Bong shouting for him to slow down, John begins slaughtering all the monsters. He reasons that Bong might catch a cold, and since colds are incurable, Bong's life is in danger. Bong is exhausted and reminds John about absolute obedience, but John ignores him and wipes out every monster. The floor is cleared. An announcement appears, declaring the 12th floor conquered with an S++ rank. As always, Bong receives a platinum badge. Meanwhile, Guang calls Bong and asks if he really cleared the 12th floor. Bong confirms but says the 13th floor might be difficult. He cuts the call, slightly irritated. In the background, John says it is warm now and Bong can rest. Without even looking, Bong unsummons him. John was about to watch TV. Tears form in Bong's eyes as he yells at the empty air, asking who John thinks he is trying to watch TV. He declares that there is nothing for those who do not obey. The scene shifted to the 13th floor of the Black Tower, where the mission was simple: pass through a corridor filled with traps. Bong and John stood right in front of the deadly pathway. Without hesitation, John suddenly picked Bong up like a baby, holding him in one arm as he assessed the situation, saying this place was completely unavoidable, and that there were far too many variables. He warned that Bong might get hurt somewhere along the way. Bong tried to protest, telling him to wait a minute, but John didn't listen. He ignored Bong completely and dashed straight through the traps, declaring that they would get past them immediately. The next moment felt almost unreal. In the blink of an eye, the 13th floor was already cleared, leaving Bong stunned and questioning everything. Then came the 14th floor. John explained that the giant eyeball bats used sonic attacks with an area of effect, meaning even Bong would get hit. He calmly stated that he would eliminate them before that could happen. And just like that, he slaughtered every single bat on the floor with terrifying efficiency, while Bong simply stood there, silently contemplating his life choices. Once again, the 14th floor was cleared in the blink of an eye. At this point, Bong mentally gave up, thinking screw it, whatever happens, happens. He pulled out his phone and checked his notifications. Money had arrived. He read it out loud in disbelief: 2.75 million won for Manastone sales and 2 million won for general player support. Then he calculated further. If he added the 5 kilograms of Manastones he had received as rewards from the 11th to the 14th floor, he had earned over 7 million won in just 2 weeks. His mind started racing. If he kept this up and reached the 20th floor without any problems, the Manastones he would get as rewards would be at least 2 kilograms. And if he let the Awakening Management Department handle the sales, that would mean 1 million won per day. No fees, no taxes, just pure 1 million in daily income. He was completely blown away. A life with a monthly salary of 30 million won was waiting for him. In that moment, Bong decided he was quitting all his part-time jobs. The next day, Bong summoned John again, but this time, John behaved completely differently. He said he was overwhelmed that Bong had given him a perfect 5-star rating even after he had committed the grave sins of disobeying orders and showing insubordination. Bong told him to take it easy from the 15th floor onward, saying he would no longer order him to hold back. John looked at Bong, surprised, asking if that was really okay. Bong replied that everything was already out in the open with the Awakening Management Department. They already knew he was the S++ rank achiever. Bong smiled to himself. If they achieved S++ rank on the 15th floor as well, that would make it 15 platinum badges. There was a high chance he would receive another special perk. He could feel his greed growing. The more perks he stacked, the safer he would become. Then he confidently ordered John Kosak to move out. John Kosak saluted sharply, replying, "Yes, sir." They entered the 15th floor of the Black Tower, Korea. The mission was to eliminate 20 goblin workers. Bong hid behind a tree, thinking this was his first time seeing humanoid monsters. They weren't particularly strong, but they possessed intelligence. Starting from this floor, clearing missions would become annoying even if they had enough information. John quietly warned him that if even one goblin managed to escape, it would call the others. Goblins were cunning, so Bong needed to hide especially well this time. Bong couldn't help but notice that John actually cared about his safety. With a confident grin, John declared that he would eliminate them all at once. He activated his stealth skill. Bong watched in awe, wondering if he would be able to learn that skill someday. And as always, everything ended in an instant. In the next second, goblin heads started flying. In a flash, John completed the 15th floor mission by eliminating all the goblin workers. A system panel appeared, confirming the successful completion of the 15th floor. Bong had leveled up. The reward was 1.5 kilograms of mana stones and a tower-exclusive healing potion. Another announcement followed. Bong had achieved S++ rank and was awarded a platinum badge. He could now challenge the 16th floor. The next moment, they exited the tower and were teleported back to Bong's apartment. Bong immediately opened his inventory, counting his rewards. That made a total of 15 platinum badges. Surely he would receive another perk. Right on time, a system panel appeared, announcing that he had been awarded a perk for accumulating 15 platinum badges. Bong's heart raced with excitement. Yes, it was finally here. When he had collected 5 badges, he had received a perk that upgraded his trait. When he reached 10 badges, he had gained the ability to copy a skill from his summon. So what would it be this time? He waited in anticipation. Oh, my real voice is back. We see the perk that Bong got is an item. An energy barrier kit has been added to his tower-exclusive inventory, and a golden shining bracelet appears as Bong, looking at this perk, is puzzled about what this bracelet is, so he puts it on and we get to know the description of this bracelet, that it is an energy barrier kit, whose effect is to protect the user with a damage-absorbing barrier, with the limitation that the barrier disappears after absorbing a certain amount of damage, and must wait 5 hours before reuse, and a feature where the barrier effectiveness adjusts to the user's level, and in the next moment a virtual armor covers Bong's whole body, as Bong thinks, oh, this is basically full-body armor. And also the fact that it's not labeled tower exclusive means that he can use this barrier kit outside the tower as well. And to check it, we see he's enveloped in blue energy, confirming he can use the barrier kit in the real world too. But a thought appears in Bong's mind about how much he could get if he sold this, maybe 2 billion or 3 billion won, wondering if he should just sell it and quit climbing the tower, but then immediately reconsidering that there might be better rewards if he climbs higher. And just then, happily, Bong calls out to John, asking if they can clear floor 16 with an S++ right away. While John, busy eating his fried chicken, says clearing it is definitely possible, but they have to be careful, and he can't guarantee an S++ rank, and after listening to that, Bong is like, okay, is that so? But internally he's thinking about what he should do, and whether he should sell this bracelet, since he could be rich if he sells it. While Bong is thinking all this, John is just busy eating fried chicken like it's none of his business. The scene transitions to the Awakening Management Department, where we see the baldy director Kyung-soo, asking how long it has been since the last S++ clear reward stopped being updated, and Mina replies that it has been 15 days, while Gwang says he has learned that they are stuck on the 15th floor, and the baldy director clutches his bald head, saying heaven is so cruel for giving such talent to an incredibly timid player, as he bangs the table, while Gwang explains that the difficulty increases greatly from floor 16 onward, but player Bong hasn't given up on clearing it, suggesting they wait a little longer, and just then Gwang receives a message and informs the director that Bong is coming to the Awakening Management Department, because he wants to use the player shop, making the baldy director Kyung-soo suddenly excited, as he wonders if Bong has been repeating floor 15 to raise funds to buy items for floor 16, and Gwang confirms that seems to be the case, since Bong was empty-handed when they visited his home for Awakening confirmation, causing the baldy director to erupt, saying how could he be so stupid, and that he was about to criticize Bong without realizing this, ordering that when Bong arrives they should support him with whatever items he wants at a low price. Then we get a big jump as the scene transitions to 15 days ago, where we see John Kosak in a bad condition because he has been told something he couldn't even imagine in his dreams, since Bong has requested him to stab him with that dagger, as Bong lifts his t-shirt and says right here, stab me, and John, being Bong's summon, is obviously not going to do that, and Bro is in a pinch as he dramatically cries out asking why Bong is doing this to him, and saying that if Bong doesn't like him then just beat him to death instead or even break his arm, but Bong says he just wants to see if the energy barrier on his body is working properly, and that it's not like he's asking him to kill him, it's just a little stab, questioning why he's making such a fuss, but John Kosak refuses, saying he didn't hear anything, and that he can't hear him, making it clear he is completely opposed to this idea, while Bong gets frustrated, and in the next second, Bong takes matters into his own hands by grabbing John Kosak's hand that is holding the dagger and piercing himself, saying he'll just do it himself, and seeing this, John is completely shocked, like his soul just left his body. Just then, our dumbass protagonist Bong realizes he stabbed himself without activating his barrier, and we see the consequences as blood starts gushing out of Bong's stomach, while in the background, John Kosak says he'll cut off this evil arm that stabbed Bong, and Bong is confused about whether he should console John or pay attention to his stomach injury, and we see him applying a healing potion to his injury, and he's fine now, but John, panicking, says he absolutely cannot do that again. And while saying that he even spits on Bong's face, while Bong is like he gets it and tells him to go back to hunting, and John Kosak respects the order, and we see him zip past monsters, killing them instantly, while in the background Bong thinks that John's hunting ends in about 10 minutes no matter how long it is, so he should at least practice his skills in the meantime, and in the next moment he activates his shadow step, feeling something strange, as in the blink of an eye he dashes forward like he's straight up teleporting, and Bong realizes this is what it feels like to use a skill, and now he gets why John told him to learn this first. And we see Bong playing with his new skill like a baby with his first toy, slipping here and there while thinking he can move around freely and that this is the best thing for escaping, but just then as he is slipping around, Bro accidentally yanks himself right in front of a goblin, and the goblin's eyes meet Bong's, as he is now face to face and gets paralyzed in fear, while the goblin, who was hiding for his life from John Kosak, suddenly leaps forward, opening its mouth and biting Bong, but the barrier comes in clutch and protects him, and in panic Bong kicks the goblin, sending it flying toward John. As this happens, John sees the goblin flying toward him, and in the next second he comes close and slashes the goblin in half, commenting that it was a nice pass, and asking if Bong played some soccer, but then John realizes why Bong was even there, since he should be in the back hiding, so he dashes forward at full speed, calling out to his summoner Bong, appearing in front of him and checking if he's okay, inspecting his whole body while asking if he fought a goblin and what he was thinking, and whether he's hurt anywhere, frantically searching everywhere, and even sniffing his armpits. Bro is way too weird, while Bong points out he seems too comfortable, but John lashes out saying, hasn't he told him again and again that he mustn't fly too close to the sun, meaning he shouldn't go near goblins or monsters, and Bong covers his ears saying okay, he'll be careful, but his ears hurt. We then get to know that after repeating the 15th floor for 2 weeks, Bong became somewhat accustomed to using his skills and accumulated mana stones, totaling a whopping 22.5 kg, which amounts to about 11.25 million won, and now in the present we see Bong on a call with Gwang, as Gwang greets him, and Bong says hello, and asks if it would be alright if he came to the player shop now, and Gwang says of course, and offers to send someone to pick him up right away, but Bong refuses, saying he can get there himself, while Guang insists that he shouldn't feel burdened since it's a privilege all contracted players receive and that he can easily sell his mana stones at the shop too, and eventually Bong agrees, saying okay then he'll wait. In the next second we see a big car drop Bong in front of the Awakening Management Department. He opens the door and steps out, and we see Guang already there, ready to greet him personally, saying long time no see player Bong, and he continues by saying they sincerely welcome him to the Awakening Management Department. Bong hesitantly says hello, while internally thinking that no matter how he looks at it, this straight up feels like VIP treatment. Guang politely gestures for him to move, saying let's go inside, and we see them enter the building as Guang leads the way. Now we see a machine scanning Bong's palm, and the system announces that Bong Juhyuk player's vein information has been successfully registered. Guang explains that from now on he can come anytime and use the shop without calling him, then asks if he would like a tour of the place. Bong, with his timid and shy behavior, declines politely, saying oh no thank you, he'll just take his time and look around himself. And then we see him enter the shop, and as he steps inside, he thinks so this is the player shop, noticing immediately that the place is insanely luxurious, but at the same time wondering why there isn't a single customer in sight. We see the shop is in top-notch condition, the kind of place that makes it feel like you've straight up walked into a palace. Bong looks around, thinking maybe it's because the items are too expensive, and then decides that first he should sell the mana stones he has. We see Bong walk up to the counter and submit all his mana stones to the receptionist, who then tells him that the total comes out to 11.25 million won at market price, and that it will be deposited into his account within 3 days. Bong immediately asks if he can use the money right away here, and the receptionist confirms that of course he can use it immediately. After that simple interaction, we see Bong already drained, thinking he should just buy something quick and head home because this whole thing is low-key overwhelming him. Meanwhile, inside the director's office, the baldy director Kyung-soo asks Guang how things are going, and whether player Bong has started shopping without any issues. Guang confirms that everything is going smoothly, saying Bong is currently browsing and that they've told all the other players the shop is closed for today. The baldy director then asks about the pricing, and Guang reveals that he instructed the staff to give Bong a 90% discount because he's so timid, explaining that giving everything for free might actually make him uncomfortable and cause him to refuse. The director responds approvingly, clearly satisfied with the approach. Time passes, and before we know it, it's evening, and now we're inside Bong's apartment. We see that he has purchased an adamantium mace for 2 million won and basilisk leather boots for 3 million won, and Bong reflects on how he heard that item prices usually start at around 20 to 30 million won, and with team leader Guang personally coming out to greet him, no matter how he looks at it, he's definitely getting special treatment, completely unaware that bro just got a 90% discount. At first Bong is happy with his purchases, but in the next moment his expression shifts as he reminds himself that nothing in this world is free, and the situation starts to feel uncomfortable, yet he still smiles while looking at his newly bought boots, calling them pretty, showing just how unpredictable his mood really is. Bong then thinks that he's only using these boots as armor because of the energy barrier, which acts as a list of armor that unifies all defenses, and realizes that this is all thanks to the perks he has. He reflects that he decided not to be greedy when he first started climbing the tower, but these perks are seriously tempting him now. The scene transitions to the next day, and we see Bong has summoned John Kosak. As John appears, as always, he immediately salutes and says at your service, sir, stating that he is honored to be summoned again today, and asks if they are repeating the 15th floor. Bong welcomes him and denies it, saying no, this time they're heading to the 16th floor. Bong notes that the summon full cooldown is over, and upon hearing that, we see John visibly happy, as Bong casually adds that they'll summon one more. Then in the next second, Bong suddenly starts acting like a child, blurting out random Harry Potter movie-type lines like magic and abracadabra, while activating his random summon. We see purple energy flood the room, condensing into the form of a being, but something feels off as the figure keeps getting bigger and bigger with each passing second, and then in the next moment, the entire head of this massive man smashes straight into the ceiling. Seeing this, Bong is instantly horrified, thinking what the hell did he just summon this time, immediately realizing his security deposit is basically gone now, because the ceiling has been completely wrecked. We see the purple energy condenses, and a huge hand is formed. And in the next second a huge leg is formed as well, until a Hulk-like giant is now summoned in Bong's apartment. And from onwards let's call this giant Hulk, as his massive head immediately ends up stuck on the roof, making the entire situation look both insane and low-key ridiculous. Bong questions his summon, asking himself if he is a human or a monster, as we take in the terrifying figure of this enormous man, his presence alone filling the entire room with pressure. Just then John sees this Hulk and instantly calls him a moron before leaping toward him and kicking the Hulk straight in the face with both feet, following it up with multiple relentless attacks as he rages out, questioning why, out of all people this guy showed up, and whose life he is here to ruin, telling him to die, to drop dead, and to lower his eyes like the bastard he is. But despite all that aggression, the attacks of John are absolutely nothing in front of Hulk. Bong watches this and is like they know each other, clearly confused by what he's witnessing. Just then the Hulk says in gibberish that it does not hurt, it tickles, which only makes the situation even more absurd. After hearing that, our mad assassin snaps back, saying, "Yeah, let's see if you can still say that after I take your head," even adding that he'll tie his pretty ribbon for him, making it clear he's about to go all in. But just then, as the battle begins, Bong steps right in between them and tells them to stop. John Kosak immediately slides toward Bong like a little puppy, saying yes, completely switching vibes in a second. Bong cries out that one broken ceiling is more than enough, clearly done with the chaos already. After that, Bong politely asks Mr. Kosak to step aside for a moment because he needs to talk to their new guest here. But John insists that it's not necessary, calling Bong a summoner and warning him that this guy is infamous, known for being an idiot, and probably doesn't even know the 3 principles of the summoned. Just then our Hulk, in gibberish, says that he knows the 3 principles and studied hard, which honestly sounds cap already. John immediately challenges him to recite them, and we see our cutie pito Hulk try to remember the 3 principles, but as expected because he is stupid, he completely messes it up, turning from a terrifying huge man just moments ago into what is basically an idiot puppy. John points it out instantly, saying, "See, you drew a dud," and straight up suggests that they need to kill him. Wong reacts in disbelief, asking if there was even a rule like that. Right then, a catalog suddenly appears describing our Hulk, and the catalog says he is a dull barbarian meat shield of the Great Plains tribe, name unknown, rarity R which means rare, type barbarian warrior human, manifestation duration 10 hours, satisfaction rating none, and resummon cooldown 3 hours. Wong checks all this and thinks R rank, that is the lowest rank I can draw, which is honestly a bit disappointing to him, making him wonder if he should just wait a month and draw again. Just then, we see Bong standing in front of our Hulk like an interviewer as he questions him about his name, and the Hulk straight up says he forgot. Bong then asks if he knows why he is here, and Hulk says don't. No, and when Bong asks about the tower, Hulk again says he can't remember, making Bong think, man, this is frustrating. He figures he'll just read the detailed description, but in the very next second, an uneasy sensation suddenly covers Bong, and his soul gets transported elsewhere, just like before when John Kosak was summoned, making him realize that just like with John Kosak, he is being pulled into his memories. Now Bong finds himself in a greenish land surrounded by grass, mountains, and plains, and the landscape looks genuinely beautiful as he questions where he even is. In the distance, he sees Hulk, who is just casually playing with colorful butterflies, like everything is chill, like our lives were in 2016. We then learn that this barbarian warrior of the Great Plains tribe is a pure being who found happiness simply by being with nature, but despite that innocence, his physical abilities are absolutely top-notch, because while he's playing with butterflies, 2 Great Plains giant wolves suddenly appear, and he easily subdues them, even patting those monsters, like he's just messing around. At the same time, we also get to know that he is far too dim-witted and innocent, as greedy people begin approaching him, including a golden-haired man with a fox-like smile, who looks at Hulk and confirms he is just as he heard, enormous. A group stands before Hulk, and their leader introduces himself as Arius, and asks for Hulk's name, but Hulk once again says he forgot, showing just how bad it is. Because of this, we see that Hulk was so dim-witted that he couldn't even remember his own name, and he gets deceived by a fake hero, being used as a meat shield in a battle against the archfiend Hydra. Using his powerful body alone, he withstands the Hydra's breath and fights back, tearing off its heads one after another, completely unaware that his own skin is melting away, all for the sole purpose of protecting his comrades. In the end, he meets his demise, dissolved by the accumulated acid, while his so-called comrades literally jeer and laugh, calling him an idiot and thanking him because they easily won thanks to him, and all that remains of our Hulk is bone. Seeing all of this, Bong realizes this is why he's called a meat shield, and he clenches his lips thinking what the hell, because so what if he's a little dumb? Back in the present, after witnessing Hulk's memories, Bong extends his hand and welcomes him, saying let's climb the tower together. But because Hulk's hands are way too huge, he ends up shaking with just his finger instead, making the moment weirdly wholesome. Aw. Bong then decides to start by naming him, asking if he prefers barbarian or meatball, and after pushing him to pick one, Hulk chooses meatball. Bong reassures him, saying don't worry my dear meatball, I'll make you happy, and asks if he trusts him. Meatball responds that he trusts the summoner and will do what he says. Then Bong turns toward John, calling him Mr. John Kosak, and tells him that Meatball and he are comrades for now, suggesting they should work together. John Kosak pauses, clearly calculating something in his mind, and after finishing his thoughts, he agrees like a little dog, saying geez, if you say so, even acknowledging that he now sees Meatball as a reliable meat shield, and that he'll teach him well and make something of him. Bong is satisfied with that, and immediately says great, then let's enter the 16th floor right away, and John agrees. John then walks up to Meatball and asks if he's not going to answer, and when Meatball awkwardly says, "Here, stop," John gets annoyed and tells him to stop copying him, "You punk." At this point, we have a timid and kind of pathetic player Bong, a mad assassin, and a very simple-minded meat shield, which honestly sounds like a total disaster on paper, but despite that, all three of them now step forward and enter the tower's 16th floor together. Bong, clearly excited for what's next, hypes it up by saying, "Let's make this work, guys." On the 16th floor, the trio arrives as the mission of the 16th floor is to eliminate 30 goblin scouts within a time limit of 5 hours. We see the 16th floor is a dense forest where Bong, John, and Meatball are all walking through the trees, and John says, "Summoner Bong, please activate your energy barrier, and be ready to use Shadow Step at a moment's notice too," while Bong is like, "Got it." John then continues saying they shoot poison darts so we don't know when they'll appear, and while this is happening, in the shadows, the goblin scouts are quietly keeping an eye on the trio, already locked in, stalking them. We see a goblin has already marked Bong as a target, and he blows into a blowgun, shooting a poison dart towards Bong, and the dart is launched at a very high speed, but before it could even touch our MC Bong, John Kosak comes in clutch, and with his bare hand he catches the dart before it could strike Bong, instantly reading the situation as he says it's an ambush, and from all sides, all the goblin scouts start blowing poisonous darts toward the party like it's a full-on barrage. Bong, being the coward he is, jumps away and hides behind a rock while John Kosak deals with the poisonous darts, saying he'll block them, as we see an overwhelming rain of poison darts flying in, and Bong, behind the rock, realizes they were waiting for them, and that there are way more than 50 enemies, which is honestly kinda insane. Just then, Bong turns to Meatball and tells him to get in front and block them, and instantly Meatball switches from happy mode to combat mode, his heavy legs shaking the ground as he walks forward, before jumping high into the air, throwing himself upward and spreading his arms and legs, while John is busy killing goblin scouts below. Out of nowhere, we see the massive shadow of Meatball loom over John Kosak, and for a second it really looks like bro is finished, and with all his might Meatball descends onto the ground, smashing everything and throwing away all the goblin scouts, but in the process our poor John Kosak also gets sent flying, completely caught in the chaos. Bong watches from behind the rock, thinking wow they are completely outmatched physically, while the goblin scouts continue blowing poisonous darts, but Meatball just tanks all the poison darts head on, saying it not hurt, it tickles, in his gibberish language, and then says I heard order to kill. In the next second he dashes past all of the goblin scouts, and one by one kills them instantly like it's nothing. Seeing that power, Bong is straight up shocked and amazed, thinking this barbarian warrior is only raw rank, because if we are talking about combat power alone he's easily S rank. No, maybe even SSR rank, and there's just no way the only reason he's R rank is because he's dumb, like that has to be the only explanation. After clearing the 16th floor of the Black Korea Tower, the trio is having a feast of fried chicken, and we see Meatball digging in, holding fried chicken in his hand and eating while saying this kitchen is delicious, as Bong praises him, telling him he was amazing today and to eat up. Just then John Kosak appears and slams his elbow into Meatball, correcting him by saying it's chicken you punk, chicken, and telling him not to eat them all at once, but in the very next second, John takes a bite himself and immediately gets hit with intense spice, basically breathing fire. Meatball then teases John, saying assassin even handle spice, while Bong, sitting there eating fried chicken, tells them can't you two just get along for once, trying to keep things chill. Just then Meatball, in his gibberish language, says summoner is good person, and Bong, who was chewing, suddenly stops after hearing that, caught off guard by the unexpected sincerity. Then Meatball continues, saying summoner feed Meatball kitchen, Meatball give life, and hearing this praise, Bong responds that compared to what they do, chickens are nothing, and that he should be the one asking for help from now on, genuinely acknowledging their strength. Right after that, John Kosak slams his leg into Meatball's face, once again yelling it's chicken not kitchen you dumbass, and seeing this Bong is completely horrified. After that Bong, obviously furious at John, tells him he scared him and asks why he's bothering Meatball when he's just enjoying his food, saying they were having such a touching moment, while John Kosak, now a little bit sad, says that Meatball punk seemed to need some education. But internally, John Kosak is just thinking look at that Meatball bastard hog, all the fried chicken, while the summoner is distracted, as in the background Meatball is absolutely demolishing piece after piece, like a menace. The scene transitions to the next day, and we see the trio now on the 17th floor of the Black Tower Korea, where Bong, flexing his muscles, says now that he's level 17, he can feel an uncontrollable amount of power, his heart racing as he wonders if this is the wild horse within him waking up again, once more imagining himself as a wild horse, as he hypes himself up, thinking it's about time he joined the fleet. But just then John Kosak and Meatball step forward, leaving Bong behind as John says level 20 is the perfect level to get complacent summoner, and that he will take the lead, while Meatball follows saying protect summoner, summoner need to stay back, and Bong in the background is just like okay, low-key sidelined. We then get to know that the 17th floor mission is to eliminate 30 goblin warriors, and of course what they find is not just a few enemies, but an entire army of goblin warriors standing in formation, like it's a full military unit. Seeing this, Bong thinks he didn't realize it when he watched other player walkthrough videos, but seeing them in person is incredibly intimidating, estimating there are at least 90 of them, and despite being monsters, they are clearly skilled in strategy and tactics. The strategy guide he watched before entering went something like this. When the goblin warriors appear, you should first retreat to the safe zone on the 17th floor, and when you come back after waiting for a while, the forces will have naturally scattered, and they'll patrol in groups of 3, allowing you to lure and kill 3 at a time without drawing aggro, then repeat until you succeed. Although this is the standard strategy, it takes a lot of time, but our boy Bong has a mad assassin and a literal meat shield on his team, so he's not really trying to play it safe. Just then Bong calls out to Meatball, and Meatball turns and questions Summoner, calling me, and without hesitation, Bong orders him to rampage and go, and in the next second, Meatball goes completely berserk, radiating insane power. While watching this, Bong thinks that now that Meatball is here, he can easily reach the 20th floor, possibly even higher, and then he gives the final command to wipe them all out, while internally, he's hyped, already wondering what the next perk he's going to get will be. Meatball launches forward in the very next moment, charging straight at the goblin warriors, who aren't completely brain-dead mobs but slightly intelligent enemies that actually move with coordination and attack in groups. They quickly form a defensive line with shields up front while spear-wielding goblins stack behind them, executing proper tactics like a low-tier army. But standing in front of Meatball, none of that shield and spear nonsense is going to do anything meaningful. In a single overwhelming strike, Meatball crashes into their formation, smashing straight through their defenses like paper, sending the entire squad flying and leaving the goblin warriors sprawled flat on their asses. Watching from a distance, Bong can't help but be impressed, thinking that Meatball is performing insanely well, realizing that strategy and tactics only really matter when both sides are in the same weight class, because this situation feels like thousands of rental bikes trying to gang up on a K2 Black Panther tank. Moments later, Bong receives a notification confirming that he has cleared the 17th floor, earning an S++ rank along with the usual platinum badge reward, and he simply acknowledges it with a calm sense of satisfaction, thinking it's impressive. Meanwhile, in the background, John Kosak is staring at Bong with visible fear, clearly shaken by how much interest Bong is starting to take in combat. The scene shifts to the 18th floor, where the new mission is to eliminate 30 goblin assassins, and the trio stands before an entire horde of these stealth-based enemies. As always, Bong immediately gives the order, and Meatball charges in without hesitation, while Bong analyzes the situation in his head, recalling that goblin assassins specialize in stealth skills, but assuming that against Meatball, stealth won't provide any real advantage. In his imagination, Meatball easily grabs the invisible goblins and wipes them out like it's nothing, but reality hits differently when the goblins remain completely invisible, and Meatball, being the absolute goof he is, starts struggling to even locate them, wildly swinging his arms around like a confused idiot trying to catch ghosts. Bong notices this and starts to realize that things might not be as easy as he initially thought. Out of nowhere, a loud laugh cuts through the chaos, and it's none other than John Kosak, who mocks the entire situation, essentially saying that watching Meatball's brainless strategy this whole time has been painful, and now he's about to cleanse everyone's eyes with a proper classic strategy, his pride practically inflating his presence. In the next moment, John activates Shadow Step, flexing hard as he moves faster than the goblins can even perceive, dancing across the battlefield with clean, precise movements, slicing through the goblin assassins' heads one after another like he's casually speedrunning them, and the kill count starts climbing rapidly as he toys with them like a seasoned pro. Bong is visibly impressed for a second, but then suddenly makes a disgusted expression while trying to imitate Lloyd's style, internally thinking that John completely fell for it, because his activity had decreased recently thanks to Meatball, and now Bong is deliberately stimulating his competitive spirit, turning this into a subtle mind game, where pushing his summons to compete directly translates into better results. He reminds himself to keep grinding and earning those badges because he needs to keep stacking these sweet abilities and perks. In the next instant, Bong summons his mace, noting that he's already around level 18, and unleashes what he calls his long-hidden wild horse, once again imagining himself as a ridiculously strong and handsome beast, because this guy is genuinely a certified nutjob. He recalls that he studied all the strategy information before entering the 18th floor, knowing that the goblin assassin's stealth skill is relatively low level, meaning that if he focuses enough, he should be able to detect their movements, convincing himself that there's nothing to be afraid of. He also reminds himself that he practiced Shadow Step repeatedly while grinding the 15th floor over and over again. Putting that into action, Bong activates Shadow Step and starts moving around the battlefield, but because he's still kind of a dumbass, he ends up slipping mid-movement, losing his balance right as he gets dangerously close to a hidden goblin assassin. The goblin notices this opening, but in a completely absurd twist, the mace Bong is holding accidentally smashes directly into the goblin's head, killing it on the spot in the most scuffed way possible. Bong immediately convinces himself that he caught the enemy exactly as intended, completely ignoring the fact that he only succeeded because he lost his balance. Feeling satisfied, he thinks the 18th floor hunt is basically a success, but that confidence instantly backfires when another goblin assassin appears right behind him, having already marked him as its target. Meanwhile, John Kosak continues slicing through goblins effortlessly, pushing the kill count higher and higher until only 5 assassins remain for the mission to be complete, and with a few more clean kills, that number drops to just 3. On the other side, Meatball is still running around playing and trying to locate invisible enemies, somehow managing to be mildly useful despite the chaos, even attempting to help more, only to get brushed off by John for being in the way. Right then, John suddenly realizes something important, and wonders where their summoner Bong even is. At the same time, on Bong's side, a goblin assassin launches a lethal strike, but at the last possible second, an energy barrier activates and blocks the attack, saving him. Bong immediately uses Shadow Step to create distance, realizing that things could have gone really bad if not for that barrier. Before he can fully recover, 2 goblin assassins attack him simultaneously from the front and back, attempting to finish him off in one coordinated strike, but Bong reacts quickly, using Shadow Step again to dodge both attacks and leap high into the air. In that moment, fueled by adrenaline, he starts to perceive the goblin's blade movements in slow motion, feeling as if the entire world itself has slowed down around him. With that heightened awareness, Bong cleanly eliminates both assassins mid-action, and just like that, the 18th floor of the Black Tower Korea is cleared. As expected, Bong receives another S++ rank along with a platinum badge. Right after the fight, John Kosak rushes over in a panic, worried about Bong, but Bong casually remarks that he thinks he got the last hit, which immediately causes John to drop to his knees and start crying his eyes out, begging his summoner not to take such dangerous risks. Elsewhere, Mina receives a global announcement, confirming the successful S++ clear of the 18th floor, and director Kyung-soo is absolutely thrilled upon hearing the news. Gwang comments that Bong is unstoppable and clearly prepared thoroughly, while the director openly states that if it were up to him, he would immediately reveal that the person holding Korea's record for 18 consecutive clears is standing right there. Gwang quickly shuts that down, warning that even joking about revealing his identity is dangerous, and Mina agrees, emphasizing the risk, while the director insists he's just that proud. Gwang concludes that Bong Joo-hyuk is now a super special player who needs to be protected even more carefully than elite teams. News spreads rapidly, with headlines reporting that a new force has emerged in the Black Tower Korea after a 20-day hiatus, achieving an insane 18 consecutive S++ rank clears, an unprecedented record that is actively rewriting the history of tower climbing. The mysterious player is estimated to be around level 19, and the entire nation, not just players, becomes obsessed with uncovering the identity behind this S++ monster. Back at the apartment, Bong and John Kosak watch the news together, and John lets out a deep sigh, his soul practically sighing along with him because the situation is getting seriously tense. Bong tells him not to just sigh, and to speak if he has something to say, and John responds by pointing out that everything is happening too fast, specifically referring to how quickly Bong is realizing his talent. Bong immediately questions that idea, pointing at himself in disbelief and brushing it off like it's a joke, unable to accept that he could actually be talented. But internally John knows it's no joke at all, recognizing that the shadow step Bong used earlier was so perfect that even he would struggle to replicate it, which makes the situation even more dangerous. John warns him seriously, explaining that as Bong starts to find combat fun and gains confidence, the danger will increase proportionally, reminding him of their original agreement to prioritize safety and self-preservation above all else. Bong casually agrees, saying he definitely won't do anything dangerous and will just take it easy, but the way he says it makes John feel deeply uneasy, as he becomes convinced that his summoner is absolutely going to cause a massive accident someday.